What's up everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are making yet another free tutorial. This is once again not one of my patterns. I took the pattern from internet from someone else. This artist is called Cassandra Babb and the pattern is published on Ravelry. So if you guys are interested in making it and you want to get the pattern, the written down pattern, then I'll put all the information down below so you guys can find it and make it along with me or alone. If you like it and you don't need to follow the video, then you can just do it by yourself. But today I'm going to be making it on camera for you guys, and this is a pattern that I discovered last year. I made it with cotton yarn, so it was a very smaller version, but this year I decided to make it with some chenille yarn, the same one that I use for all of my other plushies, my turtle plushies, the axolotl that I made, all of these plushies. It's the same yarn that I always use. It's the Loops and Threads Sweet Snuggles Lite or the Loops and Threads Chenille Home Slim, depending on the color that I want for my plushie. So the pattern that I'm making today is this spider pattern. I really hate spiders. I'm really scared of them, but this is a really cute adorable version of a spider, and that's why I chose this one. I also decided to put only 2 eyes. I know people put like more than 1 eye usually for spiders, but for me this was much cuter, less scary, and that's what I like. So I decided to make it very simple. This one I put little cheeks on, but this one I didn't, and this is actually the one that I'm going to be making in the video today with you guys. Super simple. This one is not a no-sew per se, just because the body part is no-sew, so it's something we're gonna make all together, like one big piece. But the little legs and the fangs are gonna be, actually the fangs are crocheted on, but the legs we're going to be making first, and then we're going to have to attach them to the body at the end before filling up the body. So I'm going to explain this and I'm going to show you guys in the video how to do this. But basically you're going to have to choose where you want to place the legs. So it's really depending on what you like and what you want your spider to look like. But yeah, I think this is a great beginner to intermediate, actually it's pretty beginner friendly, this tutorial. The only thing that can be scary is, like I said, the legs that you're making and you have to attach to the body after, but it's super simple. I wouldn't stop myself from making it just because of the legs. This should be fairly easy for everyone, but if you're a total beginner and you've never crocheted before, I would suggest maybe learning all the basic stitches first and practicing them a little bit. As always, I'm going to put the videos down below of how to make the different stitches that I'm going to be using in this pattern, so you guys can go and watch those videos and follow along if you're having any trouble making the stitches. But other than that, super easy, super cute. So without further ado, let's jump right into it and make this little spider.
Alright, so we're going to start right away by making the legs. And for that, you want to start by making a slip knot. Then insert your hook into the slip knot and chain 15. Starting in the second chain from the hook, make 1 single crochet. You're then going to want to increase into the 13 remaining stitches. So we're going to make 2 single crochets into each stitch all the way to the end, and we're going to end up with 27 single crochets for 1 leg. As you're working through the stitches, you'll notice that your work is going to start to curl up. That is exactly what we want. Keep working on the leg and I'll meet you back when I'm done. Alright, I'm almost done here, only 2 stitches left. And once you're done with the leg, make a slip stitch to secure it and leave a long tail so we're able to sew the legs to the body. You should now have a leg that looks just like this. As you can see, it's all curled up. That's exactly the effect that we want. Now a spider has more than one leg, so pause this tutorial and go make 7 more of these. I'll do the same and meet you back here when I'm done with all the legs. Just counting here, making sure I have 8 legs. And I do, so we're now ready to jump into making the body. But first, we have to do only one thing. We have to plan ahead and cut 2 14-inch pieces of yarn that we're going to use later to crochet the fangs onto the spider's face. So you can just cut these 2 pieces and set them aside for later. Okay, to make the body, you're going to start by creating a magic ring. You can use any technique you want. I use a double loop magic ring, but you can use a single loop. You can do 2 chains and start by crocheting in the 2nd chain from the hook, whatever works best for you. And then for round 1, you're going to want to make 6 single crochets into that magic ring and end up with 6 stitches at the end of round 1. Now take your time securing your magic loop. I know this type of yarn is more fragile. Mine was particularly frayable and very hard to work with, but as always, I just took my time and I was able to secure both loops. Always make sure you use a stitch marker to mark the last stitch of each row to make sure you don't lose your count. I got new stitch markers in my Crochet Society Halloween box, and this is the pumpkin one. It is so cute. I love it. For row 2 here, we're going to increase 6 times, so make 6 increases around, and we're going to end up with 12 single crochets at the end of row 2. For row 3, we're going to make 1 single crochet followed by 1 increase 6 times, and we're going to end up with 18 single crochets at the end of row 3. Keep doing the same thing until the end of the row, and I'll meet you back here when I'm done. For row 4, we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 2 stitches followed by 1 increase, and we're going to repeat that 6 times to end up with 24 single crochets at the end of row 4. Keep repeating the same pattern all the way around, and I'll meet you back here once I'm done. For row 5, we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches, followed by 1 increase 6 times to end up with 30 single crochets at the end of row 5. Again, keep repeating the same pattern all the way around, and I'll meet you back here once I'm done. Alright, just finishing up my last increase here in the last stitch of this row. Now for rows 6, 7, and 8. So for the next 3 rows, we're going to do 30 single crochets all the way around and end up with a count of 30 single crochets at the end of row 8. This is going to take a little bit of time, and I'm not going to bore you with 3 rows of 30 single crochets. So I'll complete these 3 rows off camera, and I'll meet you back here once I'm done. Okay, I'm back, and I'm just completing the 3 last single crochets of row 8 here. And once you're done, this is what it should look like. At this point, we're starting to see the head take shape here, and we're going to decrease a little bit in the next 2 rows. So for row 9, we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches, followed by 1 decrease 6 times, and we're going to end up with 24 single crochets at the end of row 9. Again, keep repeating this pattern until the end of the row, and I'll meet you back here once I'm done. For row 10, we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 2 stitches, followed by 1 decrease 6 times, and we're going to end up with 18 single crochets at the end of row 10. Keep repeating until the end of the row, and I'll meet you back here once I'm done. Now that we did 2 rows of decreasing, we've completed the head portion of the pattern. What we're going to do next is start increasing again to create the second part of the body. So for row 11, we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 2 stitches, followed by 1 increase 6 times, and we're going to end up with 24 single crochets at the end of row 11. Keep repeating this to end row 11, and I'll meet you back here once I'm done. For row 12, we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches, followed by 1 increase 6 times, and we're going to end up with 30 single crochets at the end of row 12. Complete row 12 with the same pattern, and I'll meet you back here when I'm done. For row 13, we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 4 stitches, followed by 1 increase 6 times, and we're going to end up with 36 single crochets at the end of row 13. Keep repeating this pattern until the end of the row, and I'll meet you back here once I'm also done with row 13. This is what it should look like so far. We're really starting to see the body take shape here. And now for rows 14 through 18. So for the next 5 rows, we're going to do 36 single crochets all the way around, and we're going to end up with 36 single crochets at the end of row 18. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to bore you with 5 rows of 36 single crochets, so I'm going to finish this and you do too, and I'll meet you back here once I'm done with row 18. Alright, I'm just making sure not to forget my stitch marker here, so I'm putting it on the last stitch of row 18. And before starting the next rows and slowly decreasing to close the body, we're going to insert the eyes at this point for our spider plushie. Alright, here are my safety eyes. I chose to use 16mm ones. Of course, depending on the yarn you're using, your spider is going to be bigger or smaller or the same size. So you can choose whatever size eyes looks best in your opinion. And I chose to place them 3 rows from the center. So I'm showing you here counting 3 rows from the center. And I placed them opposite to each other. I had a bit of a hard time showing you guys because my eyes wouldn't stay in place. You can see here the other one fell out. So I'm just going to place it back and make sure to use the plastic washers that come with the eyes to secure them in the back. Up next, we're going to crochet on the fangs. So I'm showing you here using my yarn needle where I want to put my fangs. So I'm going to use the needle to mark that specific spot. I'm then grabbing my crochet hook and I'm going to insert it from top to bottom about at the same spot that I did for the yarn needle on the other side, and I'm going to crochet on my first fang. I'm taking one of the 2 pieces of yarn that we cut in the beginning and we set aside for the fangs. With my hook facing up, I'm going to place that piece of yarn on my hook and use it to slip stitch through the hole that I decided where my fang is going to be. Then chain 1 to secure the piece of yarn. And to create the fang, we are going to make 3 single crochets by inserting our hook through the hole that we just slip stitched in and making 1 single crochet. So you want to do that 3 times. Insert your hook, grab the yarn, pull it through, grab the yarn, pull it through 2 loops again to make 1 single crochet 3 times in the fang. That's going to form the shape for the fang. And at the end, you want to slip stitch to secure that. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side for the second fang, and I'll come back to show you how I secure them. Okay, so I'm grabbing my yarn needle and the yarn tail, and I'm going to weave the tail from under the fang through any hole on the body. And I'm going to do that for both fangs and both pieces of yarn, making them meet through the same hole. By doing that, I'm going to be able to grab the 2 pieces of yarn together and secure them by making a couple knots, and then just weave the secured pieces of yarn inside the body to hide everything. So I'm just showing you here that I'm making the same thing for the fang on the other side, just weaving that tail through a hole underneath. And I'm going to secure them off camera and show you the final result. And here's what they should look like. Obviously, they might be a little bit different, but very similar. Okay, next we need to figure out where we are going to put the legs before we start closing up our spider. And here I'm showing you that I used yarn needles to situate where my legs are going to be, but you can use really anything. You can use bobby pins, you can use stitch markers just to mark the spaces and give you an idea of where your legs are going to be. So there's no rule of where you're supposed to place the legs. For me, I tried to put them at the same height as the fangs when you look at it on the side like this. In the end, I tried to put them in line with the fangs and about 1 to 2 stitches apart. Grabbing my first leg and my yarn needle, I'm going to take one of the ends on the leg and weave it through the hole where I just placed my needle and where I want my leg to be. As you can see, each of the needles that I placed are going under 1 stitch and poking out through 2 holes on either side of that stitch. So to secure my legs, I'm weaving one end of the leg through one of the holes and the other end through the other one. And then I'm going to be able to tie the both ends in the back and secure that leg in place. And here I'm showing you that I weaved them on either side of the stitch and through the same hole on the body, any hole, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to be able to tie them together and then hide the knots inside. I hope this makes sense and is easy for you. I'm going to secure the 8 legs on my spider and I'll be back to show you once I'm done. Alright, so this is what your spider should look like. I love this because it's not really sewing per se, it's just attaching the legs to the body and everything is hidden inside. So when the 8 legs are attached, this is what your spider should look like. Obviously, it could be a little bit different, but overall it should look like this if you put the legs on the side, one next to the other. And I'm just showing you here that everything is hidden inside, and at the same time, before we start closing our spider, you're going to grab your polyfill or polyester filling, whatever you want to call it, and start filling up your spider. You want to stuff it pretty firmly, but do it to your liking. And I only filled up the head because it's the only part that's done. There's no point really in starting to fill up the rest. It's only going to be in your way, and we're going to do it once we're almost done with closing up the spider. So jumping right into finishing the body here, we're going to start decreasing to close up the body, and we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches, followed by 1 decrease 6 times around, and we're going to end up with 30 single crochets at the end of row 19. I'm going to finish this row in the same pattern and I'll come back once I'm done. Alright, moving on to row 20, we're going to do 3 single crochets followed by 1 decrease 6 times around, and we're going to end up with 24 single crochets at the end of row 20. You've probably noticed that the yarn that I'm using, or the skein that I'm using, is very fragile, and it kept fraying through the whole tutorial. So the knot you're seeing here is not a problem, it's just that my yarn broke and I had to tie it back together. And all I'm doing is I'm working around it, hiding it inside the body. That's what's nice about making plushies. You can always hide imperfections and mistakes inside the plushie. So that's what I'm doing here. So if this happens to you, don't freak out. It's always fixable. As always, I'm going to finish this row with the same pattern, and I'll meet you back here once I'm done. I forgot to film this, but you'll notice that I stuffed my spider at this point. So you want to stuff it as you're closing the spider, or you can also wait until the last row to stuff it, just as long as the hole is big enough for you to be able to stuff it, basically. And moving on to the next row, so for row 21, we're going to do 2 single crochets followed by 1 decrease 6 times around, and we're going to end up with 18 single crochets at the end of row 21. I'm going to finish row 21 in the same manner, and I'll be back here once I'm done. We are almost done here. For row 22, we're going to do 1 single crochet followed by 1 decrease 6 times around, and we're going to end up with 12 single crochets at the end of row 22. I'm going to finish this row of 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, and I'll meet you back here once I'm done. And now, according to the pattern, we're done here, and you're supposed to leave a tail to close the hole, but I like to finish up with 6 decreases at the end of my amigurumi. So you're more than welcome to follow Cassandra Babb's pattern exactly and finish up here, but if you want to do like me, I'm adding a row 23 and I'm doing 6 decreases around, and I'm going to end up with 6 stitches at the end of row 23. So if you're doing like me, take your time and do 6 decreases all around, and I'll meet you back here once I'm done. Alright, so whether you stopped at row 22 or you did a row 23, what I'm going to do next to fasten off is I'm going to slip stitch in the next stitch next to my crochet hook, and slip stitch and fasten off my yarn, and leaving a little tail to be able to weave through all 6 stitches of the last row. So I'm cutting off my yarn here with my scissors and pulling it through. And with my yarn needle, I'm going to weave that yarn tail through the front loops only of the stitches from my last row. So if you have 12 stitches on your last row, that would be row 22. Just make sure that you cut a little bit bigger of a tail to be able to weave it through 12 stitches. Again, my poor yarn is completely falling apart here. Weaving it through the last stitches is the worst part for the yarn. It's gonna break if it's very friable, but I'm being very gentle, just just to weave it through and be able to gently pull it closed in the end. Look at all the fluff, you guys. I really have a skein this bad, but yeah. So I'm just cleaning it up here and I'm going to secure it and we're done.
All right, you're done. You've made your spider. I hope you guys like this tutorial. This credit goes to Cassandra Babb. It's super cute and I love this pattern. I'm going to be using it for sure. These are very customizable. So if you guys want to customize it and make it your own, then you're more than welcome to do that. I just decided to leave it simple. And that's it. I hope you guys like this tutorial. As always, like and share this video if you liked it and you want more people to see it. I would absolutely love that. And please consider subscribing. I would love to consider you guys a member of my family here on YouTube. That is all for today's video. I hope you guys liked the tutorial and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.